has arrived. An Edinburgh derby and a top-of-the-table clash in the space of 6 days. It could be a right laugh. Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts. My name is Joel Sked, and I'm delighted to be joined by Craig Cairns. Craig, how are you feeling about this week?
Yeah, I think I've sort of trained myself recently to be somewhat numb and just to take what comes over the last few weeks. After experiencing high anxiety against Rangers at Tynecastle, I didn't have the same against Celtic. So, I mean, maybe things will change when Derby Day comes and the evening approaches, because there were nerves in that last one, especially how it went. The last one at Tynecastle, I should say.
Yeah.
There were nerves in a different way at the Easter Road one at one point. But I mean, I would still think I'm still fairly confident. Yeah, I'd say I'd more worried about going to Ibrox than I would be about the Derby, though. Famous last words.
yeah. I'm similar like you. It's like numb's probably a good way to describe it. I've been trying to be as laid back as possible and just enjoy it. But yeah,
exactly.
When I was thinking about it earlier, I do feel a wee bit nervous in my stomach. It's a big game, and as I said on the Friday's one with Scott, I think when come Sunday at 5:15, 6:15, about 6:30, we'll get a better idea of how to truly feel. But before we get into that, how's your weekend? What did you get up to? There's no football. There was football, but there's no Hearts involved football.
I was offered a ticket to go see Maximo Park on Friday. It's not a band that I was aware of them, but I was never overly familiar with them. I wasn't listening to them back in the day, but I jumped at the chance to go and hang out with a few mates and just have a good night out. So I went down to Glasgow for that. It was great. And then I just kind of recovered on Saturday and then watched sport. Yesterday, I watched up until the halftime of the Super Bowl and then went to bed. And I think I did that. I remember doing that years ago, and I missed the best. I don't really watch it that often, but I think I missed the best comeback ever in the history of the Super Bowl. And it was one team completely leading at halftime, talking about 2017, 18, something around that time. And this time I thought, I think this is safe. This is looking like quite only going one way, not the most high scoring game. And watched the highlights this morning and didn't really miss too much.
Yeah, I've got time in my life for one American sport, so I don't really pay attention. I've seen plenty this morning on social media, and the Bad Bunny. I've learned to know who Bad Bunny is through the Super Bowl. Although actually, I already knew a wee bit about him because Kenneth Vargas used to share a lot of his songs on social media. So yeah, got to know him a wee bit. Right. Enough of us chatting about our non-Hearts life. We're here to talk about the Edinburgh Derby, and Hearts Standard is brought to you by Campbell Muir. Campbell Muir is a premium search firm challenging the status quo in the UK and US insurance markets. Working with senior insurance professionals globally, they focus on placing elite talent into some of the world's top insurance brokerages. You can find them at www.campbell-muir.com. Thanks to everyone who has joined us live. Get your comments in about tomorrow, and if you disagree with anything we say over the next 20 minutes or so, please do let us know. I'm sure there'll be plenty to disagree with. That's because we will talk about the starting lineup, because before we get into the game itself and where it can be won and lost, there's been a lot of discourse about the starting lineup. It's a tricky one, because I imagine what the starting 11 that we would, if we were Hearts managers, we would pick is probably slightly different to what Derek McInnes will pick. Craig, you've written the predicted 11 article when you've picked the same. So you've done three different shapes, but you've picked the same 11 within each. And I don't think too many Hearts fans will want to see it come to pass. But let's break it down, because we're trying to be, when we write these, it's not about what we think Hearts should do. It's about what we think. It's like what we think Hearts should do. It's what we think Hearts will do. So, talk us through what your thinking is, or thinking was when writing it.
Yeah, when I put the three different shapes, just to excuse me, I'll probably only share the two of them, because one of them was a back three, and I was just writing that it's something that McInnes could consider. I know that. he has plans in mind for when teams play certain shapes, and sometimes when teams play a front two, he likes to go with a back three. And Hibs generally go with the front two. They did play slightly differently last week when they went with a front three. They went with sort of two wingers either side of a striker. But I think with McGrath possibly fit and with Campbell in reserve, I think they're more likely to see one of them play than one of the forwards and back to a back two. But that said, I don't think Hearts will start with a back three. I think the shape could become one. I think we've seen that very often. Like if you play with a certain player at right back and then Milne at left back, then it can effectively become a three, or you can have that extra insurance if needed. So I won't share the one with the back three, but I'll bring up what was the 4-4-2. Now, let's stress what you're saying. It's like trying to second guess what McInnes is going to do. We don't know who's like fully fit and all that kind of thing. And I suppose the big thing is right back. I can already see some comments who say it'd be nice if we play a right back.
I favourite a lot of comments, and they're all mostly to do with the right hand side.
Yeah, and I completely understand the worries behind it, but I'm almost certain that McInnes is going to see what Nicky Cadden did in the last Edinburgh derby. And I know they were dead balls, but he put in two really good crosses for Hibs' last win. I think he's going to want to protect that side and stop Nicky Cadden from getting crosses into the box. And I think it's more likely to be Steinvender. I mean, ironically, he didn't stop the cross for the opener at Easter Road.
Yeah,
I think that was maybe his worst performance for Hearts this season. I mean, you could say that about quite a lot of the players that day.
McEntee didn't help. Sorry, just to cut across you there, because McEntee really didn't help him, and or really didn't help, and more so for the second goal as well. So it's I can understand why, for example, Mr. Miller says that would be a shambles, same right inside as the last derby. So yes, but like you said, it's trying to predict what Derek McInnes will do.
I initially went out with putting Harry. I was certain that he was going to put Harry Milne on the right and get him to track Nicky Cadden, which again, I know people would be annoyed with hearing. But when I tried to put that together, he then has to make a decision on two of the four midfielders. And I don't know whether he's going to do that. I think he will maybe trust. One thing I would say about that game, Easter Road, is McEntee was carrying an injury for weeks going into that game, and he came off at half time. Might have been to do with his performance, might have been to do with his fitness, but he didn't play again until the Celtic game after it. He says that he got injured before the Livingston game, but he went off in this game, and we knew McInnes was updating us weekly, fortnightly, that he had, what was it, a plantar fascia, something in his foot, basically. Had an issue in his foot that he could play on with. So he was potentially carrying an injury that time, and I would still trust Oisin McEntee if he was given that man marking job on Cadden. I would trust him to do it, and it not to be the shambles like it was at Easter Road.
So I'll bring in some comments, and as you'll see, there's a theme. I'll bring the ones about the derby itself, and at the later on, Alistair Houston says enough of the trying to shoehorn a centre half and a right back. It's cost us 12 this season. I hope we start with our.
How has it cost us? I mean, I can think of one game that it's cost us.
Steinvender has, I think, been pretty solid there, and we've seen it where he didn't stop the cross against Hibs, and then Altona plays against Dundee, doesn't stop the cross in the same minute against Eugene, and Sphinx Schwaldo makes a great save, or the Dundee defender misses a great chance.
I mean, that's the thing. I would understand if there was a natural. I mean, and we're even stretching the term natural when we're talking about Altona. He's played in the position for 6 months. But if there was a in-form natural right back, I'd say, play him ahead of Steinvender. But the fact is, I think Steinvender's arguably been Hearts' best right back this season. And I don't think Altona's done anything to show that he's necessarily going to right now come in and be better than Steinvender. Yes, he might play that position more naturally than him, but I don't know, the way McInnes asks his fullbacks to play sometimes, you're just as well having a centre half there.
My bigger issue is I don't like I'm content, happy even with Steinwender right back, but it's who plays in front of Steinwender, and that's where my biggest issue is
That's why I can see people being sorry.
Yeah, and just when you flat, I can understand. That's why I can totally empathize, and totally get why folk are like, that can't be the starter 11, just because I just think it's too defensive. There's it limits your. I still think we saw against St Mirren. I still think it limits your attacking, the way you can attack, and it kind of not makes you too predictable. But you've seen it with St Mirren, how they were able to focus on the left hand side, but at the same time balancing with the fact that while that's not been the right hand side all season, the balance that McInnes has sought and got as taken Hearts to where we are, and that's top of the league. However, it's hard to look at that right hand side and then you see all the players that Hearts have signed, and you're thinking, why are we still doing this?
Yeah, I know. No, I understand. But people are at different stages. It's not just the case that, I mean, McInnes he's making that judgment, and I think we have to trust him that Chesnikov's not ready to just be thrown in, and that's why that right hand side. That's why I put different shapes with the same personnel. You can go with more of a front three to avoid Kabori getting dragged out to the right, or to avoid having McEntee, because McEntee can still provide that insurance from a central position on the right there. And you have somebody that's, again, it's not natural for Braga to play out there, but at least he is more comfortable playing up on the right wing than like a McEntee or a Magnuson would, even though they don't actually play as sort of like an out-and-out winger. And then there's the option to obviously switch Kizridis and Braga as well.
So MB Jambo says, I'll turn a right back, Milne left back, please. Declan Doyle says, needs some sort of threat coming from the right side, either Alternate or Krzyota. Graham D78 says, if he's ready, I would throw Mato straight in and play Kizzy. Mato and Braga as a front three. I know that won't happen, but that's my wish. Peter H has said, I'd drop Kabori and go Kizzy, Braga and Krzyota front three. And Matty K asks, could Dell possibly play Alternate or right mid? He's very good going forward, naturally plays on the right and has defensive tendencies. Oh Jesus, there's a lot of questions. I
think it's more likely if it was a back three, then there's a good shout that Altona could come in at right wing back. But I do think that, I don't know, maybe right midfield. But then that's like, this is the thing, you could pick any 11 players and not everybody is going to be happy with those 11 players.
Yeah.
So that's like somebody, because one person's Altona on right midfield will be another person's, that's another square peg in a round hole, for instance. So yeah, I don't know. There's been square pegs, round holes this season that have worked. Steinwender played right back when Hearts won at Celtic Park. And many other, and Milne played on the right in a lot of great victories and things like that as well. These things, sometimes McInnes gets these things spot on, and I think that sometimes they're highlighted a bit too much after a defeat.
So my case is alternatively play like we have in 90% of the matches this season, including all 3 home matches versus Old Firm, and we'll do it just fine. So we've kind of discussed what you think McInnes will do. I was going to break it down into position as well, because there's some questions being asked about certain players and players who are in the team, players who are not in the team. So let's start with goalkeeper. You've got following. I'll flash up some of my lineups later on, but there's a part of me thinks he's going to go for Gordon. And
the experience thing.
So my big thing is, and there's a couple of guys mentioning Benny. So let's bring in just a couple of these comments just now. Stephen King asked, can't Benny play?
Oh, we haven't got to that yet. Can I explain that?
Yes, go for it.
I think that against St Mirren, maybe there was an argument that both weren't needed, of Benny and of Leonard.
Leonard.
Maybe the same will be. Maybe it'll be the same here. And I think right now, I think Magnuson's got a lot of potential, but I'd say right now, Benny's maybe like a safer pair of hands in the centre midfield than Magnuson, but Magnuson gives you things that Benny doesn't. So my thinking there is that he probably won't play Benny and Leonard. They'll make a decision between the two, and I think because of the recent form of Leonard, it'd be very harsh on Benny. given that he's sat out because of suspension. But I think because of the recent form of Leonard, the fact he takes set pieces, what Magnussen gives you that the other midfielders don't, and then McInnes being a bit of a McInnes favourite and also being so vital for set pieces, both ends, I think that's why I didn't put Benny in. I was struggling to fit all the players that I wanted in. I would challenge anybody else to do this and not have everybody else having a go at them for their selections.
but also but trying to do it, trying to be realistic with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is I put in, and you'll see that I've kind of similar to you.
That right hand side, Joe. That right hand side.
Yeah, I know. I've got Magnussen tucked in there, but this is what I think could be the 11, and I've got. So you'll see that I've not got Mark Leonard. You see that I've got Benny. You see that I've got Craig Gordon instead of Schwallow, and this kind of comes down to Hearts will be without Craig Halkett, Cammy Devlin, Lauren Shankland, and there's certainly, I can understand there's certainly question marks regarding like Frankie Kent as well. There's question marks regarding Stuart Finlay, just with his performance against St Mirren, but I just can't see Derek McInnes going into Edinburgh Derby with a team lacking Edinburgh Derby experience. For example, if Devlin was fit, maybe would be Leonard beside him. If Halkett was fit and Shankland was fit, he might be more inclined to play Schwallow. So that's why I just have a feeling Persad probably would play Schwallow, but in trying to go into Derek McInnes' head, that's why I think maybe Craig Gordon will play. In terms of the defence, I think there needs to be a balance sought between a team who are a defence who've got a wee bit of pace about them, and also a defence that can head the ball. And because that's two things against Hibs, they'll likely have one attacker who's rapid, but also they're quite a direct team, and they're actually quite good in terms of creating chances from set pieces. So Derek McInnes will want to have that balance. Now, Craig, if I was to poll you on the centre backs and their aerial win percentage, who do you think? Who do you think ranks at the top? It's an obvious one.
Craig Halkett.
Who do you think ranks of the lowest win percent?
Is this including all of them? So even like McCart, so it doesn't have that many minutes. Yeah,
this is including McCart and Kingsley if you want as well.
The lowest. I'm going to say Frankie Kent.
Yes, it is. So if you were to play your two centre backs who are available with the best aerial win percent rate, you would go Jamie McCart and Stuart Finlay. Obviously, that's very unlikely, but Jamie McCart is the second. He's just behind Halkett, and then Stuart Finlay and Steinbender are very close as well. So again, I can't see McInnes not playing Frankie Kent because of that experience.
Yeah, I think Kent's playing. Yeah, I think it's been proven throughout the season when Halkett's not available or has to come off, then Kent comes on. That's what's happened all season. So I think that's what's going to happen. And he took the armband last week as well. So I think that tells you. I think he'll play. I think there's a good argument for what you say about Benny, about the experience. And then just going back to the goalkeeper quickly, I did consider that given what he said. But I would suspect that McInnes doesn't want to get into the game of changing his goalkeeper or making a decision on his goalkeeper on a weekly basis. I think he would rather keep some consistency there. So that's why
I would like that as well.
I stuck with Schwallow. But I could be wrong because I saw that Celtic game came out of nowhere when he played Gordon. So
yeah. Gorgie News says, is Kingsley back? No, he is not. There was hope that he might have been available, but the derby came too soon for him. So not sure whether the Rangers game is more realistic. We'll find out a wee bit more about that tomorrow, but he's not going to be available against Hibs. And then just finally, in terms of the front three, is there an argument for Braga to play through the middle and to have a Krajota, who's probably, in terms of out of the three other wide options, probably the most likely, and just because of he's been around the club for so long, and he's starting to be involved more off the bench?
I mean, I can't see it. I still think that McInnes will reason that he'll be better for later on in the game when there's more spaces. And the team I've picked, I think it's because I think he'll want something with more insurance down that right hand side, especially with, as some people have pointed out, with Halka not being there. That's another reason that I suspect it'll be Steinwender and not Altona, is because the centre half player inside of him isn't there and is changing. So yeah, Karjota definitely in with a shout. I think it's more likely that if Mato or Chesnikov are ready to start, then they will start than Karjota. I think it's more likely that we will see one of those two start, even though I still think that's quite unlikely.
Yeah, I would certainly like them to be, because they've not been on the bench they weren't on the bench against St Mirren, at least one to be on the bench, just to have, hopefully, having had another week's training, that they are ready to impact it off the bench. And you've got Aju as well. So before I flash up mine and we get on to talk about bigger things, can you foresee any kind of curveball from McInnes in terms of the lineup tomorrow, or do you think what we've suggested in terms of McIntyre or Magnuson ahead of Steinwender, a decision that's got fans tearing their hair out, or is like basically cast, and that's definitely happening?
What I just said there about Mato or Chesnikov, I think that could be a surprise if one of them are in the lineup.
Aju?
Possibly, but again, he's speaking about being really sort of careful with him, and I mean, that just adds another central midfielder into the mix. Like, how do you pick 2 or 3 out of all these guys? I mean, I'd love to see Aju in the team and getting a run, but
Aju may be playing off the right hand side, and then it doesn't look too defensive.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's lots of options there, and I think that's what we're going to see, though. And I think that, okay, you can look at our graphics and say that right hand side looks mental, but then in practice it doesn't work out like that. One of the forwards comes out to help press, and the team has one shape on the ball and one shape off the ball, and I don't know. I just think you can get caught up with like, oh, this player's nominally playing in this position, but in reality, they cover a lot more ground than that, and they've got the role consists of a lot more. So, there's always curveballs with a Derek McInnes team, it feels like, and other than when he gets in the groove of picking the same team over and over again. And with a week to think about it after a defeat, I would not be surprised if there was something that nobody sees coming.
Yeah, we'll find out at 6:45 tomorrow night that's roughly when the team will drop. So before we get into talk about the game, this was my 3-5-2 potential, where it was trying to be realistic. And you've got Milne and Altona as the wing backs, and you've got Magnuson ahead of Benny and Ocean McEntee, with Kazaridis and Braga being as the forwards, with Steinwender, Frankie Kent and Stuart Finlay at the back. William Stevens says Alan Forrest will start as the curveball suggestion. So, Craig, tomorrow, just in terms of the game itself, what's key to winning? Playing well. Well done.
Yeah.
Move on.
No, it's a good question. Picking the right lineup. Starting well, I think, especially going by the last game and the last Edinburgh derby, I think it's crucial that Hearts start well and give the crowd, I think the crowd are going to be well up for it, but just like we spoke about with the Celtic game, where it gives, they get things to get them up. Or was it the St Mirren game we were talking about, actually? It was the one after the Livingston, wasn't it? Like when the team responds to give something, and it's like there's like a back and forth between the team and the crowd. I'd like to see that, and I'd like to see that early in the game. Hibs have been very hot and cold this season. They've had a couple of good results recently. That followed a few poor results, and I think that this is a fragile Hibs team. This is a Hibs team that can get got at. So I would like Hearts to start well and get at them get at them early, and I think we could have them on the back foot, because they tend to be a sort of a fairly reserved team anyway.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a battle. I think Hearts have to battle well. I think that's going to be key. I'd like them to start well, and I'd like them to battle a lot better than they did against St Mirren.
Yeah, you mentioned they're quite reserved. I've just popped. Oh, this is hard to look at, just because it could have been stretched out. But in the top right hand side, you'll see Hearts up the top, and then Hibs are down in the middle towards the left, kind of bottom bit. And this just looks at their kind of how they approach the game out of possession. Hibs will sit in their shape, and like when a key aspect of Hearts is when we lose the ball, Hearts immediately try to win it back, immediately go after the opposition, whereas Hibs will go back into their shape. And then when the opposition do have the possession, they'll be quite standoffish. So that's where they'll look to just kind of be well organised, be in their shape, and then they'll try to break really quickly. And it's something that's, under David Gray, has got them a fair bit of joy in the derby. Unfortunately, Hearts' records since David Gray's been Hibs head coach, or even the last couple of years, it's not been the derby record that we all hope for, we all expect. So they have found a way under David Gray to really, well, it's raising their levels for the derby, or like we saw in the first, the game at Easter Road, and we talked about it, they out-derbied Hearts in terms of what you're needing to do. And you talked about it, where it's like starting fast. Cavaldo says starting with a tempo. I think that's massive, and that's something Hibs did at Easter Road. It's putting them on the back foot immediately. And Cisco Kid asked, what about the Hibs team? What are their weaknesses we should be targeting? And I think one of their weaknesses could be their new look. They've got new personnel. Guy, and I talked about McInnes will likely want to play certain players because of their experience in the fixture. Hibs will be, I know he's not experienced in the fixture, but he is experienced. He'll be missing Grant Hanley. They'll be missing Josh Mulligan. Bowie's moved on to Hellas Verona. They brought in two new strikers, a couple of new centre mids.
Three new strikers.
Three new strikers, a couple of centre mids, right back and a centre back, and two or three of them could start. And when it kind of lines up, there's that inexperience that you could get at with, especially at Tynecastle, and again making it a really difficult environment to play in.
Dundee United got it their right side. The right side against Dundee United last week was Paslak, the new German at right wing back, and Garananga.
Might be very small as well. Garananga,
yeah. Garananga was the guy on loan from Copenhagen who was right-sided centre back, and there was lots of gaps there that Dundee United took advantage of. Paslak looked quite good going forward, but maybe not as good going the other way, and it meant that the Garananga was left exposed a few times. But Warren O'Hora is supposedly back fit, so I don't know if that's fit enough to start and come back in for him. I think that's what David Gray will do. He will bring back in, like you're talking about earlier with Hearts, I think he will bring back in the experience where he can. And if Jamie McGrath and Warren O'Hora, who have both been past fit, are fit enough to start, I expect both of them to start.
Scott Walker says mistakes is what the vultures look for. But like when I watched and seen the right hand side, that's where I thought kind of my eyes lit up regarding Kizaridis and Harry Milne, and that's where I was like, I remember us talking about potentially Harry Milne going across to the right. That's why I quite like them to line up and have that dynamic down the left hand side. And I think it was one of the guys on Scarcer in the funnel made the point that Kizaridis I think he'll be dying for the game because he got taken off so early in the game at St Mirren, and he was annoyed. He could be really fired up for it. So there's the onus will be on Hearts. Hibs' seasons, they're obviously trying to get the unit, but a big thing for them, as it would be flip side, is trying to ruin Hearts' season and ruin the prospects of Hearts 1, and they'll be looking to come and spoil a party, put a dent in Hearts' title hopes, and that's why Hearts have to approach it with the right mentality, the derby mentality that we all want to see from a Hearts side, and win those early battles, start with a tempo and put them under pressure. And again, getting an early goal could really rock them the way that Hearts ended up being rocked when they scored early at Easter Road.
Yes, I mean they also have their own. They'll have their own ambitions this season as well, and a win tomorrow could go a long way for what they want to do this season. But that'll be a big motivation, as it will be for most other teams between now and then, and it has been for months now, and that's like knocking Hearts off their perch.
If they're anything like me when it came down to it, and if it was Hibs in this in Hibs and Hearts position, Hearts and Hibs position, I would be more concerned about stopping them from winning the league than getting into Europe. But that's my pettiness and unwillingness to see success anywhere else in Edinburgh. Just an interesting one, because tomorrow's a massive game, and then winning, that would be huge ahead of going to Ibrox, but also huge in terms of putting pressure on Rangers ahead of their trip to Fir Park on Wednesday night. Ideally, we'd all be sitting with our feet up watching that, having watched a Hibs defeat the night before. Do you think Motherwell can or will beat Rangers, Craig?
I mean, history says no. Even this season, Motherwell, I'm pretty sure Motherwell are unbeaten and either haven't or have barely conceded a goal since they last played Rangers.
Yeah.
And they played well in the opening game of the season and lost to Rangers as well. So yeah, form dictates that Rangers will beat Motherwell, but I'm hoping that it goes the other way. But then that brings Motherwell pretty close to Rangers and Celtic as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be expecting it, but it certainly will be a nice surprise if it happens.
You look at the home records of the respective top four. Celtic, Hearts and Rangers all got 28 points. Motherwell have got 27 points. They've lost 1 and conceded only 5 goals in 12 games. So I do think that's a really, really big game for Rangers. Unfortunately, got a confidence boost on Sunday with all the new players scoring, etc., etc. MB Jambo says a win tomorrow would set us up perfectly for Ibrox and put the pressure on Rangers. Absolutely. Hearts Cammy, Derby nerves not quite setting in yet, but no doubt tomorrow morning the feeling will kick in. Scottish TV goal side. I'm always nervous about derbies. Yep, as never want to lose, but tomorrow Hearts just have to go for it. We need to impose our game on them, and what will be Futkotsa. I think we're up for it tomorrow. ? Feels like Hibs are more hungry than for it than us the last few games. Kind of referencing what I was saying about David Gray. McBurnsky, this is actually a good question to ask Derek McInnes. I believe this is the case. Does McInnes get a Jamestown report on opposition? I do believe when Jamestown came in, they did do stuff. One of their things was they looked at, as well as the Hearts analysis, also opposition analysis as well. Matty K says, as you must be close. Yeah, I think he must be very close because he's got some minutes. He has trained, will be like nearly 3 weeks now. So I think I said this on Friday, but I think once we're past these next 2 games, Derek McInnes, as we've shown, will go with kind of tried and trusted guys who have got him this far. That balance between having an attacking output and having a defensive solidity, I think that's something he'll go for the next 2 games. The games between after the Rangers game, so the Falkirk game onwards to the split, I think you look at a fixture list that's really not generous but favourable. I think that's the time where we'll start to see the likes of Aju, Mato, Chesnikov, Kajota get more and more minutes and probably get up to speed.
I'm also hoping that their impact between now and the end of the season is similar to what Hearts got from the summer signings, the ones that bedded in quickly and then got runs in the team and are a big reason why Hearts are where they are at the moment. And part of that, especially when you're looking at the likes of Braga and Kizridis, there's a surprise element there. There's the opposition haven't played against them before and they're not entirely sure what to expect. And then once you play teams 3-4 times a season, then you get to know, and then that's how they maybe aren't sometimes as effective against the same opponents later in the season. Hopefully, now I know you can say the same about Rangers and about Celtic, but hopefully Hearts get a similar response from their January signings. And like you say, once these intense matches are out the way, then there's the likes of Ajew, the likes of Chesnikov, the likes of Matto can start getting minutes and being an unknown basically to the other. I think there was a similar thing going on with Burley's early days as well, 2005, 2006. There was lots of players that were new to Scottish football. They were also very, very good. But I think there was a surprise element, and like, I've never played against this guy type thing, and I don't know how to deal with him. And I'm hoping that Hearts get something similar from their January signing, between now and then.
And yeah, and that's a big thing going into the split as well, because they're getting that confidence playing these guys, playing in those games, and then because you're wanting them to obviously make an impact in those games, but you're also wanting them, they're going to be big players in big games, so that's where they're going to be ready for after the split. And you do look back to, if you look at the signings, summer signings, the ones who have made the biggest impact are guys who have been in since the start of pre-season. And I don't think that's a surprise. And Derek McInnes, we asked him about it again we'll ask him about the right-hand side and would you want to play ideally the two wingers, and he said he does, but he talked about how referencing Matto and Chesnikov, just because Ajew's a wee bit different because he's injury, but Matto and Chesnikov is that he said it's hard enough getting players up to speed to the demands of Scottish football and the demands of what he wants within a style after a pre-season, but it's even more difficult now where they're coming in after not playing for a few weeks and joining a team where everyone's kind of up to speed. And that's why you reference back to the summer. That's why Braga and Casaridis, they were in Spain where they were doing loads and loads of work. Magnuson as well, he joined relatively early, McEntee and obviously Stuart Finlay. These guys are the signings who have played the most because they've been here since the summer.
Yes.
Right. Craig, we will leave it there. Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you to everyone who has joined us. There was certainly plenty to talk about and consider. We always appreciate your comments and hopefully got around to most of them, or certainly seen most of them. And there was a similar theme for a period. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel for all the latest ahead of the game. Check out heartstandard.co.uk. I've popped a few pieces in the description, including Blair Meikle's excellent interview with Dale Carrick regarding that goal, that reaction, and Gary Lock's management in the Edinburgh Derby. Craig's predicted 11 will be going up at 5:30. Craig, I would suggest maybe turning off your notifications for the next 24 hours. We'll be back after tomorrow's game, time dependent, or Wednesday morning. Have a lovely evening and hopefully an even better Tuesday evening. Goodbye.